what I really dislike about the left is when they go after speech because they claim that it leads to violence. You know.
Well, I'm very pro free speech, but being pro free speech does sometimes mean that you have to prevent people from engaging in certain forms of speech. Like, are you pro-life? Like, do you believe generally people have a right to life? I don't mean like abortion. Like, do people have a right to life?
Yeah, sure.
What do you do if you're in the middle of like Midland Park and like a gunman like starts open firing on people, like just starts gunning them down, 10, 20, 30 people, and you send the police in? Like, should the police shoot, or should they like try to capture the guy without killing him?
They should kill him, in my opinion.
I mean, I agree. And much in the same way that you understand that in that instance, it is necessary to kill to protect the sanctity of life, I too recognize that in order to protect the sanctity of freedom and of free speech, there are some types of speech that need to be curtailed.
All right, so it sounds like you're saying you're pro-free speech except for people you disagree with.
No, there are tons of people I disagree with who I think should have a right to free speech. There are some types of free speech that stifle other forms of free speech. Like, for example, imagine it's the 1960s and you're a civil rights advocate, you know, like MLK type, you know, and you are constantly being beleaguered, harassed, sometimes even threatened by Ku Klux Klanners, white citizen councilmen, police chiefs, the FBI, stuff like that. Now, some of those acts on their part are acts of free speech. They have a legal right to those things. But in a practical sense, all that ends up doing is stifling your right to free speech, because you can't fundamentally enact it if there are powerful entities out there that are trying to stifle you. Does that make sense?
The problem is it really up to you to decide, though? Like, who are you? Like, you're not the arbiter of what's acceptable speech and what isn't. In my personal opinion, I think a person should be allowed to go out and say, hey, slavery should be reinstated. And, you know, people can listen to him and disregard him and call him out as an idiot. But, you know, punching him is stupid. I just don't agree with that at all.
Well, who decides whether or not it's okay to execute somebody to preserve others' lives?
Well, I mean, that would just be, what is it, like the pragmatic or just a pure numbers game, like you would see
but
that.
Who decides that? Like, who decides when it's okay to kill a person to protect the lives of others?
The police.
What? Okay, so clearly somebody can decide it. So we have somebody who gets to decide, or some institution that gets to decide, what types of free speech are unacceptable and harmful. Like, we have an institution that can decide when it's okay to take a life. I'm sure we can have an institution that can decide when it's okay to prevent certain types of speech.
I just fundamentally disagree with the idea that any kind of speech should be stifled. And I think saying that, oh, it should be stifled because it radicalizes people, and then these people that are radicalized are gonna do crazy things. That's like, you know, slippery slope. You're going
let me ask you
step.
a philosophical argument, okay? What if there was a prominent online movement, we don't have to name any names here, but what if there was a prominent online movement that was disseminating certain types of rhetoric? That rhetoric has started to show up in the manifestos of terrorists that have been acting all over the world. People are starting to take action on account of the very legal invocation of free speech that you see from this online movement. And you know somehow, let's say prophetically, that if things continue as they are without any type of ulterior intervention, there will be a fascist takeover of the country that you live in, and all free speech will be silenced. Would you
is that people who
stop
read them? Yeah, no, I would not stop them from writing whatever the hell they want.
Even if you knew that them doing so would eventually lead to the destruction of all free speech?
Well, in that hypothetical, you're already assuming that's what's going to happen. But in my opinion, someone can write a manifesto, you know, like taking it in real world terms. Someone can write whatever the hell they want. People aren't going to suddenly start committing violent acts.
They do, though. Do you think incite? Wait, out of curiosity, do you think incitement to violence should be illegal?
for a person only if it's directly like a straightforward cause and effect. Like, okay, you're telling somebody kill them, but not when you do like, you know, all these steps removed. Oh, they're saying bad things. These bad things get people thinking the wrong way, and then maybe one of those people is gonna go crazy and shoot up a school.
So,
or
but
whatever,
that's,
you know.
so that's completely circumnavigatable then. What you're essentially saying is the only time it's illegal to incite violence is when the person doing so is stupid enough to implicate themselves by directly calling for a specific person to incite violence. However, if you have a YouTube channel and you start saying stuff like, it's time for us to rise, it's time for us, it's time for the day of the rope, for the white race to reclaim its homeland, and for the race traders and the brown and the what have you folk to hang from lampposts, but you don't specify any particular date, time, person, that you think should be legal?
Just generally, like if I wanted to say, oh, lynch all black people, yeah, that should be legal to say.
Okay, I mean, I strongly disagree. The reason why there are laws against incitement to violence right now is because we've kind of recognized that, like, usually the incitation of violence isn't as simple as just like one person. It's not like Charles Manson. Like, you don't just tell one person to go commit a crime. It's usually about disseminating rhetoric that leads to stochastic terrorism or to the implementation of certain political policies that end up hurting people. I care a lot about freedom of speech, so I care about stopping things that are going to hurt freedom of speech. I care about life, so I want to stop things that will hurt life. That doesn't just begin and end when a person picks up a gun. There are other things that happen beforehand, perhaps times at which stopping it would be more effective than had they picked up a gun, where I think we can intervene and make, you know, a positive change.
Well, like I said before, the issue is that you're suddenly looking 5 steps ahead and deciding, oh, well, you know, this is going to lead to that, is going to lead to that, is going to lead to that. Like, to me, it's just, there's no one who could really just know for a fact or decide, you know, that's, oh, this is going to lead to violence or whatever when it's five steps removed.
No, political theorists have known for a long time what leads to what. Nobody should have been surprised by the Charlottesville incident. Nobody should have been surprised by what happened at Christchurch. These are all very natural reactions to Lauren Southern, for example, with the Great Replacement like rhetoric that she used. That was came up specifically in the manifesto of the Christchurch shooter. That one's pretty specific, easily to trace. I mean, like, we know what leads people to making certain political decisions. These most dipshits have the presence of mind to understand when they've been blown the fuck out.